What happened to the revolution? Remember why we got into this in the first place? It wasn't to make wire transfers marginally faster or to add a speculative asset class to Wall Street portfolios. The original promise of cryptocurrency was revolutionary: financial sovereignty in a world of increasing control. Money that belongs to its users, not to institutions or governments. A system where individuals could participate in finance without gatekeepers or permission. This wasn't just about technology, it was about freedom. Somewhere along the way, we lost the plot. The industry that began with the radical vision of separating money from the state has largely resigned itself to building slightly better infrastructure for the existing system. The revolutionary fire has been traded for regulatory compliance and institutional adoption. The vision of a parallel financial system has faded into blockchain technology powering the same old structures with marginally better efficiency. Ask yourself, if crypto becomes nothing more than a way to make traditional finance slightly more efficient, what was the point of all of this? How we got here. The story of cryptocurrency's journey from revolutionary promise to current reality follows a path that's both instructive and concerning. Bitcoin began with a clear purpose: creating digital cash that existed outside institutional control. The innovation wasn't just technological, it was about restructuring who controls money itself. Early Bitcoin wasn't about investments or number go up, it was about the possibility of a currency outside the traditional financial system. But a critical confusion emerged early and has shaped everything since: the conflation of infrastructure with monetary design. Bitcoin, the network, proved that decentralized ownership ledgers could work, but BTC, the token, had only the most primitive monetary features: fixed supply and divisibility. As adoption grew, BTC's price rose dramatically, creating a powerful incentive to focus on price appreciation rather than developing the monetary features needed for actual currency function. This pattern repeated with Ethereum. While Ethereum was technologically revolutionary, ETH itself remained a simple ownership token with no monetary mechanisms. The blockchain infrastructure could process complex transactions, but the token driving it lacked the features needed to function as actual money. A fundamental misconception took hold: that infrastructure success would naturally translate to monetary function. The industry began prioritizing technical improvements: faster transactions, lower fees, better scalability, while neglecting the core monetary design of the tokens themselves. When financial applications emerged, they quickly ran into the limitations of working with tokens that couldn't actually function as money. DeFi protocols needed stability to function, but native crypto tokens provided none. The solution emerged in the form of stablecoins, essentially just tokenized versions of traditional currencies like the dollar. This was a profound but often unacknowledged surrender. Instead of building alternative monetary systems, we built alternative infrastructure for existing ones. The revolutionary vision of financial sovereignty gave way to the more practical goal of making traditional finance more efficient. Even Bitcoin's success represents this surrender. Its greatest achievement in recent years has been institutional adoption through ETFs and corporate treasuries, essentially being absorbed by the very system it was designed to provide an alternative to. Rather than disrupting traditional finance, it's becoming just another asset class within it. Where we're heading. The trajectory we're on leads towards a future that few early cryptocurrency advocates would have chosen. Blockchain technology will likely be integrated into traditional financial systems, creating more efficient infrastructure while maintaining the same fundamental power structures. In this future, blockchain networks serve as improved infrastructure for the existing financial system. Bank-issued stablecoins become the dominant digital currencies, functioning as de facto CBDCs. Major banks and financial institutions control the primary access points. BTC might survive as a digital gold, but most other native tokens face utility pricing. The monetary layer remains firmly under institutional control. This isn't just speculation, we can already see it unfolding. DeFi increasingly gravitates toward dollar-denominated activities. Major financial institutions are developing blockchain-based settlement systems. Central banks are piloting digital currencies. What's rarely discussed is the financial implications of this trajectory. As blockchain becomes merely better rails for traditional systems, network tokens face a fundamental valuation crisis. Without functioning as money themselves, they become subject to utility pricing, a race to the bottom that undermines their long-term value proposition. Consider what happens when a token's only value comes from facilitating transactions. Competition inevitably drives fees towards marginal cost. We're already seeing this with multiple Layer 1 networks competing primarily on transaction costs and speed. This competition creates a deflationary spiral for token value. The more efficient the system becomes, the less value the token can capture. The neutral settlement layer thesis that many rely on, where major activity will pay premium prices for trustless settlement, is fundamentally incompatible with a world where the assets being transferred already carry significant trust assumptions. If you're moving stablecoins that require trusting Circle or Tether, why pay large premiums for trustless settlement? The logical endpoint is near zero transaction cost, with trust relationships shifting to the validator level. Precisely what we already see with some Layer 1 networks today. This dynamic trickles down to undermine the entire ecosystem. Network tokens lose value as they compete on efficiency. Governance tokens become worthless as they're replaced by actual regulated securities. Even utility tokens face the same race to the bottom as alternatives proliferate. Without monetary properties that create sustainable value capture, the hundreds of billions currently allocated to these tokens will likely dissipate over time. We're already witnessing this with ETH's struggles to maintain its value despite Ethereum's technical success and widespread adoption. Each technical improvement paradoxically reduces the token's ability to capture value. Increased efficiency means less fee revenue, and improved scalability means lower premiums for block space. This represents potentially hundreds of billions in misallocated capital, not because the technology failed, but because we fundamentally misunderstood what gives these tokens value. Technical utility alone doesn't ensure value capture at the token level. Without monetary mechanisms, these tokens remain perpetually dependent on new buyers rather than intrinsic utility. For those who came to crypto seeking yield or technical innovation, this future might seem acceptable. But for those who believed in the original vision of financial sovereignty, it represents both a profound disappointment and a potential financial catastrophe. The irony is that we've built tremendously sophisticated ownership ledgers without creating the monetary systems needed to make them meaningful alternatives. We've created impressive pipes without changing what flows through them. It's not too late. This path isn't inevitable. We still have the opportunity to build what cryptocurrency originally promised, but doing so requires recognizing what's missing and directing resources accordingly. The fundamental oversight has ironically been in cryptocurrency's monetary design. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and most subsequent networks created tokens with rudimentary monetary features and hoped the market would somehow transform them into functional currencies. This hasn't happened and likely won't, regardless of how widely they're adopted. Building genuine alternatives requires tokens designed as complete monetary systems from the ground up, with mechanisms for managing supply in relation to demand, productively utilizing accumulated value, creating sustainable credit markets, maintaining market functioning during crises, enabling value access without requiring exit, providing transparency into system health. Imagine if ETH had been designed with these monetary features from the beginning. Instead of relying solely on transaction fees and speculative demand, it could have converted its premium into firepower to support its monetary function. Rather than competing on transaction costs in a race to the bottom, it could have created value by providing the foundation to truly serve as the money of its own economy. The entire ecosystem would likely look radically different. DeFi applications would be built on a native currency with actual monetary properties, rather than defaulting to tokenized dollars. The network effect would center around the monetary asset itself, rather than the underlying technological rails, which are increasingly treated as the commodity that they are. Most importantly, we might have actually created a genuine alternative to traditional monetary systems, rather than better infrastructure for what we already have. The hundreds of billions in capital currently spread across tokens with declining utility value could instead strengthen a system that creates actual monetary sovereignty. This is precisely what Olympus attempts to build. Rather than simply creating another ownership token, it builds what can be thought of as a monetary computer, a system where policy mechanisms operate as programs that run autonomously to maintain monetary functions. Not programmable money, but actually programmed money. Today, OHM functions primarily as a growth asset, like most cryptocurrencies. This is a necessary phase. Building the scale needed to function effectively as monetary infrastructure requires attracting capital through potential appreciation. But unlike other cryptocurrencies, Ohm has a designed path beyond this growth phase. Its treasury-backed model, adaptive supply mechanisms, lending facilities, and market operations provide the foundation for transitioning from pure growth asset to functioning monetary system. As it scales, these mechanisms will enable it to provide the stability and utility needed for genuine financial sovereignty. The value proposition is fundamentally different from other crypto assets. While network tokens face inevitable utility pricing pressure, a token designed as a complete monetary system creates sustainable value through its monetary functions. Rather than competing on marginal cost, it competes on monetary properties, stability, utility, and sovereignty. This creates a potential value capture model that doesn't depend on artificial scarcity or continuous new buyers, but on actual monetary functionality. By directing resources towards approaches like Olympus, we have the opportunity to build what cryptocurrency originally promised. Not just better infrastructure for existing money, but better money itself. The choice before us. The opportunity to fulfill cryptocurrency's original promise still exists, but it requires making conscious choices about where we direct our resources. Do we continue investing in tokens that might deliver incrementally better infrastructure for existing systems? Or do we build tokens that have the architectural potential to deliver on the original promise of financial sovereignty? This isn't about abandoning the technical advancements so far. The blockchain infrastructure that's been built is remarkable and continues to improve. It's about recognizing that impressive infrastructure alone won't fulfill the vision that brought us here. We need tokens designed as actual monetary systems, not just ownership ledgers or network access tokens. Each of us has the opportunity to contribute to this future through our investments, our development efforts, and our advocacy for what cryptocurrency was always meant to be. The path we choose now will determine whether cryptocurrency fulfills its revolutionary promise or simply becomes a footnote in the evolution of traditional finance. The window remains open to build what we originally set out to create, but it won't stay open indefinitely. The time to reclaim the vision is now.